Welcome to Energy Talks, a regular podcast series with expert discussions on power system testing topics. My name is Scott Williams from the podcast team at OMICRON, and I will be your host. In this episode, we are going to talk about which state-accredited calibration laboratory meets the highest international standards for testing equipment. For example, compared with conventional ISO 9001 manufacturer calibrations, calibrations according to IEC 17025 are becoming more and more the standard in various countries. OMICRON Calibrations was founded in 2020 as a legally independent accredited laboratory to meet this growing need for IEC 17025 compliant calibrations. My guest today is Dietmar, head of OMICRON Calibrations. He will tell us more about the need for certified calibrations in general, and of course about calibrations according to the IEC 17025 standard in particular. Hello, Dietmar. Welcome to Energy Talks.
Hi, Scott. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to offer you some insights into our new calibration lab.
Great. Thanks again for being here. First of all, Dietmar, for testing equipment, could you please briefly tell us about the importance of standard compliant calibration? Why is it necessary?
Right. The need to calibrate test equipment on a regular basis increased over the past, let's say, 20, 30 years continuously. It is, for example, a core requirement of the ISO 9001 to have all equipment calibrated on a regular basis. That has an influence on the final quality of the product. Producing quality equipment means as well to use accurate working testing equipment. And the easiest way is to have your equipment calibrated on a regular basis. That's it.
Dietmar, are there any binding regulations for the frequency of calibrations? In other words, how often should they be performed, and what is your recommendation?
Right. It is a common practice to calibrate the test equipment once every 12 months. However, the different standards like ISO 9001 or IEC 17025 do not define such intervals. They just ask to ensure that the measurement equipment is working properly and that it is adequate for the purpose. In other words, good enough to do the job. However, it's good practice to start with a calibration interval of a year or so, the one that is suggested by the manufacturer of the equipment. Based on a thorough assessment, you can then change the time, increase or decrease in a defined way, for example, to, let's say, 18 months or even 2 years. But you always need to consider that you have to argue with a potential auditor why you'd increase this to a longer delay or longer period. For example, a shunt resistor. Shunt resistor can be a piece of metal that is quite stable. If you measured it originally, you get a result. After a year, you send it in for calibration. And if you find out after 2 or 3 calibrations that this shunt resistor is still stable, performing like it was in the early days, or drifting in a defined way linearly, for example, then you can consider to increase this calibration period. And that's common practice. That's as well what is being done, that you can then increase the time. On the other hand, if you have electronic equipment, for example, that may drift much more than a stable shunt, and therefore you need to consider very accurately what you're doing with your calibrations and with the intervals. So it's basically your decision how long you wait until you go for the next calibration. But please always consider that an assessor, auditor for an ISO 9000 audit, for example, may ask you, why did you change the interval for the calibrations?
What are the differences between calibrations according to ISO 9001 and IEC 17025?
The most important difference is for sure the international recognition of the results. An IEC 17025 calibration lab receives its accreditation from an impartial, usually national accreditation body that is usually linked to a government or national ministry methodological institute. Accreditation bodies sign international recognition agreements with other institutes worldwide. For example, we have not just the Accreditation Austria logo on our calibration certificates, but as well the ILAC MRA, International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, Mutual Recognition Arrangement. That's the synonym for this ILAC MRA. And within this ILAC MRA, institutes from all over the world are linked together, stating that they do recognize the calibration results of all the participating calibration labs. And as we got as well this logo, our information, our calibration is as well recognized worldwide. An important part of the audit procedure is the thorough, in-depth assessment of the technical and organizational capabilities. The calibration lab needs to pass a proficiency test for every measurement type and range and prove that it is capable to measure the results with the stated uncertainty. This is quite a time-consuming process where you have to prove that you're able to do what you say you are able to. There's a difference to the ISO 9000 where you simply are questioned if you have accurate measurement equipment. That's it, what you get as an answer in the ISO 9001. And then the results are reproducible. But for the 17025, you have to prove your capabilities, that you know why this equipment measures with the accuracy or with the measurement uncertainty you state. So there's from technical side, it's quite an interesting topic, but more challenging than ISO 9000 actually. This thorough tests and assessments mean that a high level of quality assurance and thus comparable results to international standards is reached and can be as well recognized. And that's what the governmental, national ministry level institute are as well stating and approving. So there's always, it's not that easy to reach this recognition, because these institutes are not depending on your order compared to an ISO 9000, where usually a kind of company wants to sell the ISO certificates, the accreditation. So there's a bit of a discrepancy between checks, hard checks, and as well providing the certificate.
Okay, interesting. Dietmar, there are often misunderstandings about the terms calibration, verification, and adjustment. What are the differences?
Good questions. There is a common misunderstanding that much more should be included. But from a technical perspective, the term calibrating simply means to measure, providing a measurement result. That's what is covered by calibrating. In the context of an accredited calibration laboratory, this calibration is then done with a defined measurement uncertainty. The measurement uncertainty expresses the possible range of error that was considered for this measurement results, such as the specifications of the test equipment, but as well the environmental issues, temperature, humidity, drift during the measurement, e.g. sort of heating up during the current measurement, during current measurements, influence of cable and connectors, proper grounding and shielding, influence of the device under test to the measurement results. So this all is covered in the measurement uncertainty. The measurement uncertainty needs to be calculated and specified for each and every test point.
Mm-hmm.
But back to your question and the misunderstandings, all the other things like comparing measurement results to published tolerances or limits and providing an assessment like a passed all tests within tolerance statement or the readjustment of the devices, that's in general additional services that can be provided but are usually not covered within a normal calibration. We can do it. We at OMICRON Calibrations can do this, and we can offer calibrated test equipment using the full range of capabilities from a standard factory calibration up to an accredited calibration with all the required things like repairing, adjusting, long-term stability checks, and also all the other stuff that can be applied.
Could you please tell our listeners more about OMICRON Calibrations?
Right. OMICRON Calibrations started or is based on OMICRON electronics knowledge. We have continuously grown our competency in testing and calibrating our products. Over all these years, we have developed a very sophisticated testing approach for ensuring the highest technical standards. For example, we have a database with all the test results and adjustment parameters for all the devices we have ever produced from the beginning onwards. In 2019, we finally decided to go the next step and apply for a formal accreditation according ISO IEC 17025. Already knowing that we have the required technical competency to do it.
Okay, Dietmar, why was this next step important or necessary to make?
Quite simple. The request for 17025 calibrations became more common over the past few years. So providing this service in-house with very short additional delays and the knowledge we had and could add to our standard calibration is a clear differentiation factor to other manufacturers.
What was required to make this next step?
Right. In order to become an accredited laboratory, we had to set up as well the required organizational frameworks on top of the technical requirements that had to be fulfilled. For that purpose, we founded OMICRON Calibrations as an independent entity within the OMICRON family. Mm-hmm. We had to define exactly what we can achieve and provide on objective proof for our capabilities. And we learned a lot during this time and still do. Our focus changed from just measuring accurate, that was in the past, to how can we prove objectively that we provide correct measurement results.
Dietmar, which specific services are offered by OMICRON Calibrations?
Right. The biggest advantage is that we can offer the full range of services from a single accredited calibration according to IEC 17025. This is the best choice if you are certain that the product is still working fine and that you just need a new certificate. But it can go up to our full service package consisting of the as-found calibration according 17025. That is usually used to assess the drift of the device under test and compare it with the last calibration you did. Mm-hmm. Then we have the hardware and software update. Then we do a factory calibration according ISO 9001 with an entire functionality check of the device. This is much more checks or tests than we could do in the 17025 lab. For example, for a CMC, we have some 2,500 test points automatically measured and tested that are done during this calibration. And finally, the equipment receives a NAS-left calibration according ISC 17025, again, as a reference for future calibration and as a second independent quality control for our factory calibration. So we have a closed loop here. Our advantage is that we know the devices best and that we can react in case of unexpected results. We can adjust or repair it straight away and ensure best functionality again. It gives us very short reaction time, and we can be quite fast with the full range of services we provide here.
Okay, well, that's a question I wanted to ask you. As a customer, how long does it usually take to get a calibrated test instrument back from the calibration lab?
Okay, right. We can be very fast, actually. If it's just an as-found calibration, as explained just before, without any adjustment or repair, we can be as fast as a day or two from goods in to goods out. If we provide the full program with goods in calibration, hardware, software update, adjustment, factory calibration, and goods out calibration, it will take a bit longer, but you can expect some 3 to 5 days for such calibrations, provided we have all the information in advance, like order, that we get detailed information, what we can do with the device. Are we allowed to repair it? Are we allowed to adjust it? But consider that we can expect the units leaving OMICRON calibrations again after 3 to 5 days.
Dietmar, are these calibrations performed at OMICRON headquarters in Klaus, Austria?
Yes, correct. It's just available here in Austria at OMICRON Klaus, because you're limited to a defined place as well, with special environment, with special calibration towers, so that we can achieve this much higher accuracy, or better to say, lower, smaller measurement uncertainties. This cannot be provided in a normal manufacturing test. The measurements result we are producing there are as well very accurate, very good. But at OMICRON Calibrations, in our special lab, we are moving one step further. We are more accurate. We are better defined in how we do it and what we can achieve there. Therefore, it's just available here in Austria, in Klaus, in the one specific OMICRON Calibrations room.
The extended services of OMICRON Calibrations have been available for a little over a year now. Dietmar, how has customer demand for it developed over this time?
All right. The first year started very well with some 30% more calibrations than originally planned. And due to our extended services offer with the new calibration capabilities, this seems to grow even further this year. So we started quite nicely, and it became obvious that offering this service generates as well for us more opportunities to provide the services here in-house.
Okay. Now, from a customer point of view, what do you think has contributed to this demand for these services?
Some countries do not trust the ISO 9001 anymore. And so they went the next step and want to have 17025 calibrations, simply as that. And as they know that these testing results are accredited and accepted worldwide, comparable worldwide, they simply go for that. It's more difficult to achieve this, so therefore they want to have this 17025 calibrations. On the other hand, knowledge about what is behind this gained grew as well over the past years. I think it's simply becoming more common over the next 10 to 20 years. becoming more a standard requirement, like the ISO 9001 became over the past 30 years.
Dietmar, where can our listeners find more information about which Omicron test instruments can be calibrated by OMICRON Calibrations according to IEC 17025?
Right. You can find all the detailed information at omicroncalibrations.com. Don't forget the S.
In calibrations, okay.
Exactly. Or mail us under calibrations at omicronenergy.com, or call me directly. I'm always happy to provide customers with more information, or simply contact your local sales representative. They can guide you as well forward. In general, we are continuously increasing our services, the number of devices we can calibrate internally. So it's always worth checking if the devices are already available from OMICRON Calibrations.
Dietmar, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts about IEC 17025, calibrations and testing equipment, and also for providing us with information about the services offered by OMICRON Calibrations.
Thank you for giving me the chance to provide your listeners with some details about our services. Thanks.
Thank you again. And a big thank you to our audience for listening to this episode of Energy Talks. We welcome your questions and feedback. Simply send us an email to podcast@omicronenergy.com. Omicron has several years of experience in power system testing and offers you the matching solution for your application. Visit our website for more information at omicronenergy.com. OMICRON Calibrations is a globally recognized state-accredited calibration laboratory according to IEC 17025 and is distinguished by a service that meets the highest international standards. Be sure to look on our website under Technical Support for all of the details about the related calibration services. Please join us to listen to the next episode of Energy Talks. Goodbye for now, everyone.